Honor and respect, honor and respect, honor and respect. Divine all blessed greetings and salutations. It is another edition of Revolutionary Hoodoo, New Orleans Voodoo Secrets and Recipes. Voodoo Hoodoo 101. Powered, produced, promoted, sponsored, and supported by NOIVD, New Orleans International Vodou Day. In Ouida, Benin, a national Vodou Day is celebrated on January 10th. African and diasporic artists were initially invited to create monuments to mark the important points along the slave route. The path captured people were marched along on their way to the beach and the slave boats that carried them into slavery in the Americas. On the National Voodoo Day, there is a ceremonial procession to each of the major sites along that march, and the procession begins under a tree where the slave auctions were held. Then to the tree of forgetting, around which they were walked 3 times so that they would forget who they were and where they came from. Then to the memorial of repentance, dedicated to repentance for the complicity of their ancestors in the slave trade, and to petition the forgiveness of the descendants of enslaved Africans now living in the diaspora, a plea for absolution. Then to the Salmi enclosure, where they were said to have waited for the slave ships to arrive. Then to the tree of return, where the slaves were walked around 3 times so that their spirits would ultimately return to their native land. Then to the door of no return, a large arch where the enslaved were forced onto the slave ships. A most recent monument is a door of no return, and it's called a most recent monument near the door of no return is called the Door of Return, and homage to and celebration of the transatlantic descendants of African slaves. So on January 10th, annually, National Voodoo Day, the Dogbo King leads a procession every year to each of these sites where small ceremonies are performed, followed by a major Voodoo ceremony. And I believe they're in their third year, as we too are in our now third year of New Orleans International Voodoo Day. And we continue to invite your support, your donation, sponsorship, volunteership, and visit us at www.vodouday.org, www.vodouday.org for more information and always coming updates about this powerfully growing event. We're also grateful for your continued support and participation by way of social media. Thank you to our Facebook listeners on all of our pages, groups, and platforms, Twitter X, LinkedIn, our international audience. We certainly appreciate you, as well as YouTube, our local, national, and international listenership. We certainly appreciate you. And please do click the like, the follow, the subscribe button at the bottom of your screen, and even that $sign. We certainly do appreciate your support. And always those who show up to support us live in the chat. We're grateful for your continued love, support, and participation. Daniel Neal, a beloved member of our community, thank you so much for your continued support. Apostle Hudson, 1963, love and light to you and yours. Ray Alexander, we certainly do appreciate you and your continued support and participation. And I will be unmuting our beloved co-host and committee members of NOIVD, administrative team members, Elder Reggie Green Soap on this platform, the leader and founder of Shrine of the White Cloth. You will be unmuting momentarily. The beloved Ogan and master musician and performer, Neg Mawan, you will be unmuting momentarily, as well as our beloved Sister Queen Mother, initiated member of La Source and administrative team member of NOIVD, the Queen Mother Bianca Johnson Plessy. Sister Val will not be joining us tonight, but all is a blessing. We will be moving forward and sending her peace and love with her and her family this evening. Before I meet my co host, I want to sort of introduce what we will be sharing tonight. The conversation last night was really motivating and invigorating for me personally. And it really got me to thinking about, some of Sister Bianca's questions that really lean towards the Yoruba ethnicity specifically and Orisha. And then certainly we had the Loa of Haitian voodoo. But it brought to mind the Vodou nations, the various ethnic groups and nations ultimately that make up the practices that we know as Voodoo, Vodou, and Voodoo. When we speak of Voodoo, and Voodoo, we're not speaking of a single tradition or a single people or a single moment in time. We are speaking of a constellation, a living galaxy of nations, ethnic groups, languages, and lineages whose roots stretch deep into the red earth of West and Central Africa, whose branches reach across the Atlantic into Haiti, Louisiana, and the wider diaspora. So tonight, we want to honor those nations. We want to call their names not as museum pieces, but as living peoples whose spirits still walk with us, whose rhythms still beat in our ceremonies, and whose philosophies still shape our worldview, and whose descendants continue to carry the fire. Because Vodou is not merely a religion, Vodou is not merely a system, Vodou is not merely a practice. It is, as Neg Mewan would say, it is a lifestyle and a way of life. These are nations, spiritual, cultural, and ancestral nations, woven from the identities of real people who lived, forgot, created, and survived. From the mother continent, the cradle of nations, let's begin where all things begin, the cradle of humanity and the birthplace of Voodoo nations, the Fan and Ewe nations, and the ancient kingdom of Dahomey, modern day Benin and Togo, come the Fan and Ewe peoples. Their Voodoo is the backbone of many diaspora traditions. Their pantheon, their cosmology, their divination systems, their reverence for the ancestors. These form the spiritual DNA of Haitian Vodou and Louisiana Voodoo. When we call on Legba, when we honor Dan, when we salute Sakpata, when we speak Mawo Liza, we are speaking the language of the Fan and the Ewe. The Yoruba nation, from the Yoruba world, Nigeria, Benin, and beyond, come the Orisha traditions that traveled along Voodoo. Even when the names changed, the energies remained. In New Orleans, in Haiti, in Cuba, Brazil, Yoruba taught and thought braided into the spiritual fabric of the diaspora. The Congo and Central African nations, the Angola, the Central African Basin, came the Bikongo and the Bantu and related peoples, their cosmogram, their understanding of the crossroads, their work with the dead, their healing sciences and root work, and Inkisi, all of these became the foundation of hoodoo, root work, and the deeper layers of Louisiana voodoo. When we draw veve in the dust, when we work with the ancestors, when we call on the spirits of the land, we are echoing Congo philosophy. The Igbo, the Akan, the Mandi, and others, the diaspora is vast. I personally hold connection through DNA to 16, no less than 16 ethnic groups that still exist to some degree now in present modern day West Africa. And so the Igbo brought their reverence for the ancestors and their powerful spiritual technologies. The Akan brought their Abba song and their deep understanding of destiny. The Mandi people carried their griot traditions, their cosmologies, their medicines. Voodoo, and Vodou are not one river. They are a delta fed by many streams. So the Middle Passage brought and recreated the nations in motion. When our ancestors were forced into the holds of ships, they did not leave their nations behind. They carried them in their bones, in the songs, in their memories, and in their dreams. The Middle Passage was not only a tragedy, it was a crucible, a place where nations met, mingled, and forged new alliances. Fan met Congo, Yoruba met Igbo, the Akan met Ewe, and the Mandi met Bantu. And in the darkness of that crossing, they whispered their spirits to one another. They shared their rights. They kept each other alive. They braided their traditions into a single rope, strong enough to survive the unimaginable. And in Haiti, the first New World nation of Vodou, these nations reorganized themselves into Rada, Petuo, Nago, Congo, Gede among others. The Rada carried the cool waters of Dahomey. The Petuo carried the fire of resistance. The Nago carried the thunder of the Yoruba. The Congo carried the deep earth and the dead. The Gede carry the laughter, the irreverence, and the truth of the ancestors. Haitian Vodou is a living archive of African nations preserved through ceremony, revolution, and community. In Louisiana, the creolized nation of Voodoo. And then there is, of course, this beautiful city by the river where Africa, France, Spain, the Caribbean, and indigenous America met and created something entirely new. Louisiana voodoo is a Creole tradition shaped by Fon and Ewe voodoo, Congo and Central African cosmology, Yoruba influences, indigenous American medicine, French and Spanish colonial Catholicism, Caribbean migration, and the unique cultural alchemy of New Orleans. And here the nations did not disappear, they transformed. The spirits took on new names, new masks, new rhythms. The ancestors adapted to new soil, and the rites shifted to meet the needs of the new world. But the nations remained. And so tonight we honor the ancestors in Congo Square when we light candles for the spirits, when we work roots and lay hands or call the names of Loa. We are continuing the work of those nations. As I begin to bring on my beloved co hosts, New Orleans Today and New Orleans International Voodoo Day are a living crossroads. Today, New Orleans stands as one of the great crossroads of the African diaspora, a place where the old nations still speak, a place where voodoo, and voodoo continue to evolve, breathe, and guide, where the Fon, the Ewe, Yoruba, Congo, Igbo, the Akan, the Mandi, and all the nations whose children survived the crossing, we continue to honor. We honor the ancestors who carried these traditions through the fire and the water. We honor the spirits who walked with them and who walk with us still. And we honor the living practitioners, those here with us tonight, as well as those here in New Orleans, in Haiti, in Benin, Togo, Nigeria, Ghana, the Congo, and across the world, who continue to keep the nations alive. Because Vodou is not a relic, Voodoo is not a stereotype, and Vodou is not a myth. These are living nations, living people, living spirits, and living traditions. And as long as we call their names, and as long as we honor their ways, As long as we keep the fire burning, the nations will continue to rise, to guide, and to protect. Ashe, AYIBOBO, all is truly and indeed a blessing. And what say you, my beloved co host? Please do come on in.
Peace, everyone.
Good evening, everyone.
Mm-hmm.
Hello.
Mm-hmm.
So, what you were saying, Divine Prince, that is very good. I like the topic that we're talking about because there, like you said, there are so many different nations out there, and there's still a lot of them that I don't really know about. But at the end of the day, all of them still have a purpose and the meaning to something. And majority of it is just more like reflecting off our memories, the Bible, and like reventing things that are like the spirits and our ancestors and them had left behind in the lowest. A lot of the stuff is just more like teaching. Like you say, it's a way of living in life, even if it's through struggles, survival, or healing, or protection, or medicine, philosophy, just anything. So that is one thing that a lot of people do have a misunderstanding because a lot of it is portrayed, as witchcraft and bad. But a lot of it is mainly, like you say, a way of life and just living and stuff and survival. And also when you have mentioned about when it came over into New Orleans and with the enslaved Africans, when they was taken across from the Atlantic, it's almost like even though that a lot of us still feel like a lot of things has been forgotten because our language changed, but even when the enslaved Africans was taken across the Atlantic to come all the way over here, the spirit still didn't leave them. Like they didn't leave that spirit behind. All that all of them came with them, and so it carried on with them into New Orleans, and that is why we all still have like the songs, songs and prayers and the drum beats and the clapping and the stumping and the herbal knowledge and the names of the different spirits that come in so many different names and forms to us, and also like ritual memory, because even though the language are broken, but the spirit still recognize each and every one of us, even when we come together in the community or also at Congo Square. It's like even if it's the older or the younger generation, there's gonna always still be some type of memory or something that's gonna point out to us that still kind of help us recognize the spirit.
Ashe. If I could, tonight, everyone, thank you, Divine Prince. Great show, Sister Bianca, brother Nag. What I like to say is, and I'm sharing it because I experienced it last year, and it's the procession part of the National Voodoo Day over in Benin. Now, when you get to Benin, of course, there's thousands of people, but there's thousands of ethnicity there too. Even though it's the base for voodoo, but the Yorubas are coming in, the Akans are coming in, the Airways from Togo are coming in, the guys from Burkina Faso, Mali, a lot of the traditional practitioners from all that region comes into Benin because Benin itself is not a large country. And so to have these thousands upon thousands of people, they are not all Beninese. But what I want to get back to is the procession part. And I'm so happy Divine Prince spoke of that. What they're trying to do in the procession part is remember the slavery Holocaust. They're bringing you to certain spots and places that are marked to let people know this was the route that human beings came through before they were shipped off to the new world. And mimicking that and mirroring that, we in New Orleans, part of the New Orleans International Voodoo Day, we taking a page from that book with a procession marker that we done. Because New Orleans is such a city that was not bombed in the Civil War, so some of the relics, some of the slave spots and places are still in existence, such as the French market, such as some of we talked of the wrought ironwork last night, but we could still see where slave auction blocks and slavery was held in captivity in New Orleans. And I like the mirroring of the two. And that's what I wanted to add.
Greetings, Nate. Mewan, please do come on in, beloved.
Once again, I'm happy to be here tonight and like to say hello to everyone as we talking about the our brothers and sisters was stolen from Africa, brought to America and the islands. And the Haitian Voodoo, they always refer to the 21 nation. We feel like it kind of like disrespected to say nations or tribes. We always refer to them as nation, NANCON. And you have the first one, which is well known, like it does with Dahomey, which is known as Benin right now, and it's pretty much like mostly in West Africa. You can see Dahomey as one, which is they have the Dahomey, and inside the Dahomey itself, which is a country called Benin right now, they have the Dahomey with them and the Rada. It's mostly like in a place called La Souvenance. That's the only place that keep that rhythm as it was, and there's a lot of Fon language that used there, and this is so it's a temple, huge Laku and Gunaiv, which has been over 200 years, way before anything else. They keep that tradition. Every time we have recently, maybe 7 years ago, some king from the Agua King was there. He was amazed because there's a lot of songs are still referring to as the foreign language and understood so many things they were singing, and the tradition keep there still and still this day. And we can there's Dahomey is one, and we're going to talk about the Igbo, as from the southern eastern of Nigeria. And the Igbo, there was one thing about those Igbo in Haiti, when they were very secretive though. Rebel, even in Haiti, they don't know that much about it. And they also was part of the revolution as well. And most of the Igbo were whether they kill or killed, use societal to escape slavery. Which is which is fierce, and everything kept secret. You have to dig deep to understand the Igbo aspect in Haiti. And there's the Congo, which came from central Congo. Central Africa, Angola, and there was a lot of them, lots of them. Always referred to, there's a saying in Haiti, when they call you Congo, mean just come. There was a lot of them, and there's a lot of things that came from them as far the revolt. And I believe Macandal was one of the first rebel that started the revolution and used those aspects of secret society as far as use all these skills to use the plants to their advantage and use animal to their advantage. Whatever he can use. He was captured and beheaded, and while he was burned, there's a lot of flies. Nobody sees his body. It's still a meat till this day, and and they had as Congo very frequent. There's so many style of Congo. There's Congo. There's also so many rhythm as well, Congo, Laie, Franc Congo, and all that. It's also there's the dance, where people smiling, very nice, and there's the dark aspect and I mean dark aspect, not in a Hollywood way, but really fierce, like give birth to the petrol, and there's a big lahu too, which is called lahu sukrida, which is a Congo lahu, and you have like the Agada people, the nation, the nation called Agada. Remember, we don't say tribes or nation, but we will refer to them as nation. And the Agada, there's a rhythm called Agada. It's pretty much, and it's like from the West Africa, like around Benin as well. Like it's very like kind of mixed. That every place is there could be a tribe next to each other, and the Rada is very popular too, and it's pretty much like they use the same type of drum. The Arada use the same type of drum with the Dahomey.
Now, Nag Mewan, if you will, for a moment, entertain a comment or maybe even a question, if you will, from the chat in terms of the development of Sanse and 21 divisions on the Dominican side of the island, as opposed to Haitian voodoo systems. What is your opinion about that development and how that came to be, and the distinct sort of differences?
So I mean, you need to understand the historical point of view. There's no such thing as Dominican Republic. It was one island, and it was one island. Everybody knows that. Now things changed because of the political perspective. Like they have the Dominican on one side and the Haitian on one side. There was one island, when the colony called Saint Domingue at that time. So this is how they call the colony. It was a Saint Domingue. There was no such thing. It was the same culture, same thing. When they were from the 21 division, they were apparently as all the nation, all the loi. That's in Latin Asian voodoo. But they use more most of the rhythm I mean they have the Palomayan beat, the drum you hear the sound pretty much it plays like something differently. We have certain rhythm that play like that more bougie, such as that it's a rhythm that promote high class so as a sense like contre dance those things because of racism, but there's no when they refer to the 21 division, they were referring to the 21 tribes, the 21 nation of Haiti. Simple as that.
Thank you. We appreciate it.
Because after January 1st, so what it was? It was one nation, one island, and bottom line. So I'm not able to read those questions on the chart. So I'm just new to the system. I'm not really. I try to see if there's people in there what they're saying, but I don't know.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Yeah.
So
Divine Prince, this is Al Director. I'd like to ask Nag a question around the 21 division.
Yes.
Nag, can you hear me, sir? Okay. When you look at the Puerto Ricans, who is a separate island from Saint Domingue, and when you look at the ones on Saint Domingue outside of the Haiti, with the 21 nations, they like to give reverence to the Native American tribes. Can you speak a little bit on that?
So can you be specific? What would they like to be?
Yeah, they're called the Tainos. I want to say they in the 21 division, one sect of it is for the Tainos and the Arawaks.
But the Taino is part of the 21 division, and when the Taino is the one that you call the Dirial or Orial, they were settled mostly on the northern part of Haiti. Like if you go to Cap Haiti, which is close to the border of the Dominican Republic, called Dahabon. So Dahabon is really close to that part. This is they call them De Real or Orial. is them. They have so many. They have like all the Tijan, all the Dehesi, such as they have the Frida there, Clemizine, Philomise, the Moon, and all of that. So there's if you go to Haiti, in the northern part of Haiti, where they have the Derrial, where mostly of the historical part took place, like Vertier, the house, the Citadel. That's really close to Dominican Republic. We really close. You just cross over. That's one place in people can travel, go to Cap Haiti. You can just walk to Dominican Republic. Cross over.
Elder Reggie, I also think it speaks to sort of a relationship that at some point the enslaved as well as the maroon populations developed with the Aboriginal and indigenous people of the land. We see a similar system in Venezuela, a system known as Maria Leonza, which sort of features either a European or a light-skinned Aboriginal sort of priestess or queen with a indigenous, what we sometimes call Indos figure to one side, and then an African figure to the other, sort of symbolizing that co-relationship between the African ethnic tribes, that were now present in the land, along with the indigenous figures. And so you see that sometimes, I guess, in a more watered down, appropriated demonstration in a lot of the botanicas and spiritual shops, where you'll find some random indigenous and Native American pieces and statuary and symbolism, sort of symbolizing that unity. I think when we look at the Black Spiritualist Church and their adaptation of Black Hawk as a sort of an indigenous figure of revolution and war and defense, so it's something we find throughout the Americas.
Excellent point, Divine Prince. Yeah, that's what I was trying to get at. Excellent. Yes. So back to you, Mac. So what I'm trying to ask, because I know from the Puerto Rican side, they are invoking some of these energies. I'm asking you, do you invoke any of the Arawak or the Taino energies in the work that you do?
It's part of. I just told you it's part of the Arawak, the Tainos. It's part of the Haitian heritage. There's a deep connection with the Taino, because remember, after they did what we call genocide or ethnocide against the Tainos. Some of them, there was at least 200 that was left and went to the mountain. And that's when they stopped meeting with the Maroons. And the tradition was the same. They used to share knowledge with each other. There wasn't no difference between those African that was coming there with the Tainos that was there. And there was there's a huge influence. The one that teach our brothers and sisters how to use the land, the what, all those secret basins, and we try that veve, that the veve came from them, the sign, just it's part of they use it's the blending that gives birth to the veve, to Haitian Voodoo with the Taino. There's we use laughter. There's a lot when we say, like I said, there's so many spirit that we use there from the Taino.
Thank you.
So, even if we talk about, now, since we're on the Taino, we're going to talk about the Derrial. They refer to them as Loano. And you're not going to see Derrial anywhere in Africa, as you can see. If I try to name you all the tribes that they have, they refer to 21 tribes, but there's more than that. Because, once they're outnumbered, if you come to the colony, because they don't really so you don't really represent anything. But they have the Asao, they have the Bantu, they have the Bamileke, which is the death, so they don't even end it. Et vous faites tout Dahomey, Igbo, Congo, Arada, Mondon, Wolof, Salengo, Maï, Dereal, Bambara, Bizango, Kita, Nago, Wongol, Mazone, Musundi, Krabien, Zando, Amin, Baoulé, and Petro. This is what they were referring. They were talking about, like, the 21 nations. As I said, like, the Dereal is the Taino that was part of the land, and the Petro is the combination of all the knowledge came from different, like, part of Africa, and blend together with the context. Because remember, the Haitian Voodoo give birth with resistance, a lot of violence, like, fights, and and determination. So, and even the Taino was really, like, the Taino that was there was really helping in that sense, as far as, like, the secrets of the land, because they were there way before, the what, where to hide, how to do certain things. Even we learn a lot of things. Let's say, like, when the one of the slave, one of the brothers and sisters, because when we're talking about kafu yesterday, they use that method, like, there's always food as you want to away, because they even, like, left food, like, on the floor, because when our brothers are escaping, like, the plantation to go to the mountain, and they will, like, find water and food for them to eat. You understand? So they inherited that, from the Tainos as well. When they were fled, like, slavery, you all along the way you find something to eat, and also give you direction and a way to survive.
Thank you.
And we certainly appreciate you and all of your history and knowledge and wisdom and experience. And we continue to invite you to join us here as a co-host on this platform as our newest member of NOIVD, New Orleans International Vodou Day. And we are certainly thankful for our social media platform, our Facebook pages, groups. We are certainly appreciative of those who visit Shrine of the White Cloth page, those who visit my Black Hawk Voodoo page, or Sister Toni and I's New Orleans Black in the Day. We certainly appreciate you. We thank you for listening and participating through LinkedIn, our international audience, as well as YouTube, our local, national, and international listenership. Twitter X, thank you so much for your listenership and participation. And we're always thankful and appreciative of those who check in and tune in by way of Instagram. Princess of the Night 7, thank you so much. Aquarian Rat, thank you. Rain Queen, Rain joined us. We appreciate you. 42 Big Worm, we appreciate you. Platinum Gold, thank you for returning and continue to support. Cindy LaFleur, thank you so much for your continued support. Designs by Lafectra. Greetings and salutations to you and yours. Thank you so much for joining us again tonight, Apostle Hudson 1. Built with Shaheed. Greetings to you, beloved. Thank you so much for your continued long-term support. Kurtavia McConnell, thank you so much for continuing to join us and support us. I saw yours 1984. We certainly appreciate you. Jackel BC, I hope I'm saying that right. Thank you so much for coming through. Rain Lovelight, we certainly appreciate you. Nor Gold, greetings and salutations. Crisco 8, thank you for coming through. Denver's Picks, we appreciate you. All Over the World Tree, we certainly appreciate you. Secret of the Spirits, greetings and salutations. Yosagamo, we certainly appreciate your return. Kayla Marie DMV, greetings, beloved. I grew up in the DMV. And People's Assembly US, thank you so much for joining us. And we continue to invite your attendance, participation, support, volunteership, sponsorship, and donations by continuing to show up here at 9 p.m. U.S. Central Standard Time, Monday through Friday, as well as visiting our website, www.vodouday.org, VODOUDAY.org. And we'll now turn the mic over to Elder Reggie for our closing.
Thank you, Divine Prince. Our advertisement, please. It's carnival time in New Orleans, February 16th, is Fat Tuesday, also known as Mardi Gras Day. We have a large selection and variety of Santa Muerte statuaries available at the Island of Salvation Botanica. That address is 2372 St. Claude Avenue, Suite 100 in New Orleans. We are mentioning NOIVD podcast. Yay. Our next new moon ritual prayer and application ceremony will occur on the new moon Sunday, March 18th, in the zodiac of Pisces. Time 6:30 p.m. Location 710 Cluid Street. What we do is a ritual spiritual warfare gathering, and it is a powerful ritual. Please come out if you can support it. With that, I say, lest we forget, the spiritual medicine of voodoo brings healing and relief from the shackles of slavery that binds the master and the slave to the same chain of social division. We continue to have work to do. We are continuing to growing. And please, I love to give support and strength to our panels today and everyone in the listening audience who comes out and supports us each night. With that, I say, Ashe, Ashe, Ashe. Good night, everyone. We love you all, and we'll see you tomorrow night.
All right. Good night, everyone.
Odabo. All is a blessing.
Every corner